Here's a quick summary of what's going on in Ukraine today. This morning, Russian missiles attacked Kyiv, killing one person, injuring two people, damaging buildings and cars as fires broke out across 4 districts because of falling debris. Other Ukrainian cities, including Kryvyi Rih and Kherson, were also targeted with several casualties and extensive structural damage reported. Ukraine's Air Force reported that of 60 drones and 5 missiles that were launched overnight by Russia, 40 drones were intercepted, but many of the missiles hit their targets, notably in Kyiv. Ukraine had launched a counterstrike yesterday on the Rostov-on-Don region. That's the region in Russia that Liz Truss thought was in Ukraine, using US-made ATACMS and British-made Storm Shadow missiles targeting military sites. This marked a notable escalation in Ukraine's use of long-range Western weapons, and Russia justified its attacks this morning on Kyiv as retaliation for this Ukrainian assault. And Vladimir Putin yesterday suggested a high-tech duel over Kyiv to demonstrate Russia's new hypersonic missile, the Oreshnik, the hazelnut, a nut in every bar, claiming it to be impervious to air defences. And Vladimir Putin, his bombast here is suitably dissed by President Zelensky, who says his remarks are delusional, referring to the Russian leader as a scumbag and accusing him of living in a fantasy world. Of course, Zelensky is wrong. Putin doesn't live in a fantasy world. He lives in a fridge, a Smeg fridge, that has been transferred from his hometown after his death in October last year to the Kremlin, when no doubt he is snuggling up against frozen peas. Ukraine accuses Russia of a massive cyber attack on its state registries, disrupting critical infrastructure like property and civil registries, and restoration efforts are expected to take weeks. The Russian forces advanced into Donetsk, capturing Uspenivka and Novopushtnika, inching closer to the strategic city of Pokrovsk. And Russia continues to launch assaults on Ukraine's southern and eastern positions, although the pace of territorial gains has slowed, partly because of the bite of the winter. Putin has reiterated his readiness to negotiate with Trump to end the war, signalling, however, a maximalist position requiring Western sanctions to be lifted, Ukraine to cede all the territories that Russia has stolen, and to desist from any attempt to join NATO. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban has delayed extending EU sanctions on Russia, hinting at awaiting Trump's inauguration, reflecting a broader global complexity that surrounds this conflict. Restrictions on Ukraine's use of Western missiles for strikes inside Russia were lifted, which have intensified concerns in Moscow about Western escalation, and EU leaders have expressed solidarity with Ukraine in the days following this decision by the US. But Zelensky has also stressed that broader US support is crucial for any sustainable peace plan. Escalation on both sides, with intensified missile and drone attacks, include deeper Ukrainian strikes, therefore, into Russian territory. And Putin's rhetoric indicates a hardening of the Russian position, although he hints at potential concessions under favourable conditions, and, of course, said that he's more than happy to work with Great Britain if Britain will work with him. Well, dig him out of the fridge. Cyber and information warfare. On the subject of the fridge, it's really important to say, if Russia wishes to engage in disinformation and mockery, mock not, as Frankie Howard would say, really, we must be ready to seize on whatever stories happen to be going around that belittle and frustrate and humiliate the leadership of Russia. And I cannot imagine for 1 minute Russia likes to be told regularly that its president is dead and in a fridge. hiding in a fridge like Boris Johnson. Hair goes everywhere. If you hide in a fridge, I suppose the hair goes stiff. I remember standing on the Iron Bridge, sketching the Kremlin many years ago, and my hair went stiff. It was quite extraordinary. It was so cold, the hair literally went stiff. And Putin's rhetoric is as absurd, as what? Putin's rhetoric is absurd. Let's leave it as an absolute. The cyber and information warfare remains a critical component of the conflict, targeting both military and civilian infrastructure. But of course, it is now going both ways. And the drone warfare, which is developing particularly fast in Ukraine, is something that is going to change the nature and the method of modern warfare, as Calum Robertson has pointed out in his rather brilliant work on the development of drone warfare in Russia, and his observations in Kherson of the ways in which drones are used by Russia to specifically attack civilians as they're going about their ordinary life, not to attack military targets, but to specifically pursue civilians down the street. And he was one of those civilians who was pursued down the street by a drone. He was lucky; he survived. In fact, he survived twice, because he was also in a car which was hit by a drone. That drone crashed and didn't explode, and he's got it. But for what Russia is using, Ukraine is developing, and Ukraine is analyzing these Russian drones and creating something better. And this is the forefront. This is the cutting edge of modern warfare. The situation remains fluid, with ongoing military actions and international political manoeuvring shaping the next phase of what is becoming a very protracted war. And of course, anyone in their right mind would want peace. And but it cannot be a peace on the terms Putin is suggesting, where his invasion is justified and rewarded. We cannot in this world, I think, reward a bully and give that bully the stuff that's been stolen. That is an unacceptable way to resolve a conflict. And Ukraine is quite right. As long as it wishes to resist the invasion, we must support Ukraine. That's the right and proper thing to do. That is the moral thing to do.